I'm back with this bitch. Now it's recording. Hi. Okay, we'll do it at the same time. Hi. So I'm back with my sister Sarah.
Hi.
We're here to discuss another Babysitter's Club book that we
Yay.
found. So far we haven't found any more, just those two, but blessed. So we're going to be talking about Babysitter's Club number 113, Claudia Makes Up Her Mind. Let's start off with a general plot summary.
This was part of a story arc that began in book number, I think it was 101. Claudia gets sent back to 7th grade because it's one of her main character traits through the whole series is that she struggles in school. She basically struggles in any subject that's not art. In book 101, they decide to send her back to 7th grade because they think it will help her. And what? I remember thinking that this storyline was ridiculous even when I read this as a kid. It gets even more ridiculous because in this book, which is a mere 12 books later, Claudia gets called into the guidance counselor's office and they're like, oh, we noticed that your grades have been improving. Would you like to go back to 8th grade? What? Like,
I know, it's so weird.
I think this book takes place in November, and like presumably she was sent back to 7th grade like sometime soon after the school year started.
Yeah.
So this means that she's been sent back to 7th grade for like less than 2 months, or maybe about 2 months, but still. And then they're like, oh, JK lols, we're gonna send you back to grade 8 if you would like. Most of the book is Claudia deciding whether or not she should stay in 7th grade or go back to 8th grade.
And there's also a couple subplots. One of the reasons why she's not sure she should go back to 8th grade is because she has a boyfriend!
A steady boyfriend, they say. I think it's so funny in this series how they use the term steady boyfriend. Like, it's just so quaint, and I'm pretty sure people weren't even using it anymore in the 80s and 90s.
No, it's more like a 50s, 60s term. But so she has a steady boyfriend, and so that's one of the factors that makes it difficult to decide. She also is having some boy drama because one of her friends, who is a boy, has a crush on her. Also, there's some stuff about the kids they're babysitting, and they want to like do a school spirit activity, but with the kids. So they have this whole like color war thing going on.
It's called that because each team wears a different color, and I mean, this was written back in, what was it, 1997 or something? This was over 20 years ago, but reading that now just sounds like a sock puppet scheme from 4chan.
So that's basically what's going on in this book. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the romance.
I mean, any romance that happens in middle school is going to be awkward.
Yeah, pretty much. Just reading it now, it's so cringe.
It's so cringe, but that just shows how relatable it is.
Yeah, but it's like done very tastefully.
Yeah.
But it's just so cringy.
Oh, there's this part, it's like page 4 where Claudia describes her boyfriend. His name's Mark. Mark has the most gorgeous long brown hair and about 100 different smiles, each one devastating. Needless to say, he was elected king of the 7th grade by a landslide. And then it's just like, he's a 12-year-old boy. I mean, like, I know this is a 13-year-old talking, but it's like in reality, like, they talk about him like he's
like John Stamos.
Yeah. Like, he probably looks like a prepubescent boy.
So basically, he looks like a weasel. You know, let's be real.
The whole, like, thing with her friend Josh having a crush on her, it's awkward, but it is pretty cute. I don't know. It's kind of endearing.
Yeah, it is kind of endearing.
It seems like how an awkward, shy 12-year-old boy would act.
Yeah, and Claudia's narration through this whole thing is so funny when she's talking about the way that she's noticing Josh looking at her all of a sudden, and like how she's like, wait, everybody already knew this except for me, and it's just the way that she...
Ain't that always the case?
Yeah, the way that she like goes through that thought process is so funny and very accurate.
Oh, a spoiler, the part towards the end where Claudia decides that it's best if she and Mark break up, because basically he's just been like blowing her off through the whole book. They have this conversation and she's like, I don't think this is working anymore, like I think we should break up, and then he's like, okay, cool. I think this ties with the breakup scene in Sleepless in Seattle as most unrealistic breakup ever written.
Yeah.
Actually, this one's slightly better because at least Claudia's not in love with a random guy she heard on the radio. Only by a small margin.
Yeah, pretty much. We're going to talk a little bit about some new characters that emerge in the Babysitter Club series. Mainly, there's one new character that is introduced because Dawn in book 100 or whatever.
It was book 88.
Okay, whatever.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Dawn. She's still alive, but we miss her. Dawn goes back to California, so instead of just having one less babysitter, they decide to fill in the void of Dawn with Abby. So we're going to talk a little bit about Abby, and also a little bit about the way that Claudia introduces all of her friends in Chapter 2. Basically, Abby is Jewish. She has allergies.
She's from Long Island.
And her sister plays the violin and has scoliosis.
Her twin sister.
Yeah, she's a twin sister. I was like, wow, they're really ticking off all the boxes with these two.
The reason that they've moved to Connecticut from Long Island, their mom works in publishing and her mom got transferred or something. Anyway, their father passed away in a car accident when they were 9. It's a pretty tragic backstory, but like they don't really
elaborate. Claudia's just like, yeah, this happened, whatever. It's very lightly touched.
Yeah, like all the backstories, all the tragic backstories in Chapter 2, they're so like
nonchalant.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, and then this thing happened, and then this happened, and oh well this kind of sucks. And
yeah, and it's just like literally everyone except for Claudia and I guess Mallory have a tragic backstory of some description. Like, Stacy has the whole diabetes thing.
And her parents are divorced.
Yeah, there's a lot of divorced parents in this scenario. Marianne's mother died when she was a baby. It's a lot.
But there were a lot of people getting divorces at the time that this series is being written.
Yeah, so they wanted to make kids feel less alone, probably. Also, Josh randomly has a tragic backstory, like, towards the midpoint of the book.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
It was like, I think his grandfather had died recently. He talked a little bit about like how he felt so helpless when this was happening. It was very touching, but it just like comes out of nowhere.
It's so random. He's just like, oh yeah, I can relate to your struggle about grade 7, Claudia, because my grandpa died.
It's like typical dude derailing the conversation to talk about himself.
Basically, everyone has a tragic backstory in this book, except for Claudia. I also just enjoyed that Abby has allergies, because I feel like that is something that doesn't often come up in books. There's a part in the babysitting chapters where Abby is in somebody's house, and she starts getting sneezy, and the kids are like freaking out about something. Oh girl, I relate.
Abby's at a babysitting job, it's like super chaotic, and like Jessie phones her at the babysitting job from her babysitting job for some reason. Abby starts sneezing, and then Jessie's like, are you okay? And then Abby says, it's the stress, or maybe the dust. It's like, wow, relatable.
Yeah, my allergies get really bad when I'm stressed out.
Claudia, since she's been in grade 7 for all of 2 months, she's found a new friend group, which is actually kind of nice. Even though she got sent back a grade, it doesn't seem like the other people in grade 7 treat her like they think she's some kind of idiot. Like, they actually seem to respect her and think she's cool. Yeah,
it was actually interesting because in the first chapter, Claudia says something about how, like, she has, like, more of a status because she's older and she's, like, wise, basically. But I think that's cool because you'd think it'd be the opposite.
Claudia has a new group of friends. Their names are, so many J names. There's Josh, Joanna, Jeannie, and then there's Bashira. They all have J names except for Shira. But it's kind of interesting because they seem to make an effort to add a little more diversity by this point in the series. Jeannie's last name is Kim, so you can probably guess that she's supposed to be Korean. Maybe in the first book where she's introduced, they actually do describe what she looks like, but I'm gonna guess that she's probably Korean.
Yeah.
And then Shira's last name's Epstein, so she might be Jewish.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Claudia's not the only Asian in the school, apparently. Maybe they're the only two. But
oh my god. But at least there's 2 of them now instead of just being Claudia.
Yeah, I wonder if Scholastic got, well, maybe not complaints, but just like people writing and being like, hey,
why is there only one Asian character ever in this story? Yeah.
So maybe that's how this ended up in here.
Maybe. Who knows? This book is yet another book where Claudia is mistreated by the school system.
Yeah, I remember thinking that this plot line was ridiculous as a kid, but like reading it now as someone who works with kids who are around almost the same age, this is not acceptable.
Yeah, they just don't seem to know what they're doing at all.
Yeah, like, when she gets sent into the guidance counselor's office in this book and she says, oh, like, your grades have improved, your grade 8 teachers are going to set up some individual tutoring for you so that you can get better grades. And I'm like, wait, that's probably just what she needed in the first place.
Exactly, like if they had taken the time to give her like extra material to help her improve.
Yeah, and like
This wouldn't have been necessary.
I mean, like, continuity is going to be an issue in any series at this over 100 books long, and like with several different ghostwriters. But like back in the other book we reviewed, like Claudia did do pretty well on the math test after being tutored by her sister. So she might just be a student who works better with people one-on-one instead of in a group setting.
Yeah, exactly. And another point that we thought of as we were reading this was Claudia's parents can afford to pay for Jeannie to have...
Janine. Janine. Too many J names.
Okay, so if Claudia's parents can pay for Janine to take like some college courses because she's really smart, why can't they afford to pay for a tutor for Claudia?
Yeah, and even if you only have the funds to pay for one extra thing for like one kid, like I feel like your priority should be with the kid who's struggling instead of the kid who's already doing pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, and like Claudia, her marks aren't the greatest, but she's clearly intelligent in other ways. She's very witty, especially in this book. And she's very creative, but it's just like the traditional public school setting doesn't seem to work for her.
Yeah, and nobody really makes an effort to make it work better for her until the very end when they're like, oh, well, we could send you back and give you tutors so that you could catch up.
She's really internalized this, that she's not smart about math and English, and I feel like at this point it's probably just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like she's been told so often that she's bad at it that she doesn't think it can get better.
Claudia, my gal, you're a smart cookie.
10 out of 10 would fire the guidance counselor.
Basically, I think I would fire every teacher that we've encountered thus far in the 2 books we've read.
Yes.
We'll have to see if there's a better teacher character later on.
I don't know.
So this book has a couple secret gays in there, as I dubbed it when I was writing down my notes.
Yeah, I mean, they don't come right out and say it.
There's certain things in there that make it seem like a couple characters are coded as being gay or not totally straight, which probably was not the author's intention at all, but reading it now, it just feels that way. So basically, the character of Mark, as I was reading this book, I got the sense that he might not be a straight boy. Mainly because there's this whole thing about how Mark's like blowing Claudia off to spend more time with his best friend who's moving away. Obviously, it's important for him to spend time with his friend before his friend leaves, but it just comes across as kind of gay. Especially when, like, Claudia is talking about this whole thing.
Yeah, I found the page where she's talking about it. She's like, I'm so sick and tired of excuses. Frank. Frank's not his girlfriend. I am. Oh, honey.
Yeah. Mark just doesn't seem interested in Claudia at all. And then as soon as he's like, oh, we should just be friends, then all of a sudden it gets so much easier for them to talk to each other and, like, be cool.
She said something about how she likes him a lot better now that they're friends.
Yeah, it's very, very much like a baby gay story right there.
I think this is pretty typical for kids in middle school. Like, the whole going out with somebody and then breaking up and then starting to date somebody.
Like right after?
Yeah, right after. I think really it's just, like, kids trying to figure out, like, what they want from a relationship when they have really nothing to base it off of. So it's like trial and error.
It's kind of funny to read it now from our perspective. You're like, oh my. The next thing I have in my notes is the rip in the space-time continuum.
Okay, so this is something that really bugged me about this whole plot line. By this point, we're at book 113 in the series. So for the first, like, 10 or 12 books, I think, the older girls were in grade 7, and then they move up to grade 8, and for the rest of the series, they're in grade 8, and as the series goes on, it advances chronologically through the school year, but when they get to the summer, there's never really any talk about them moving on to the next grade, and then after like a couple books that are set in the summer, and then the school year starts back up again, they're still in grade 8, and like, it's fine. It's believable. Like, you can suspend your disbelief because they don't really talk about moving on to the next grade, so whatever. And like stuff, as they're cycling through grade 8, stuff keeps getting added to the canon, but they stay in the same grade, so anyway, that's fine. But then when this happens, where they're like, oh, Claudia, we want to send you back to 7th grade, it just, like, rips a hole in the logic, the time-space logic that this series has. Because there's even a line in here when Claudia's debating whether or not to go to grade 8 or stay in grade 7. She's talking with her friend Jeannie, and then Jeannie says to her, "You once told me you didn't remember anything you learned in 7th grade the first time around. So that's a whole year you have to catch up on." And it's just so funny because by this point in the series, they've cycled through grade 8 at least like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
So it just makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just very jarring.
I think they were running out of ideas.
Yeah, I think this book kind of is a testament to that, but it still has some redeeming qualities.
Yes. While we didn't enjoy the plot of this one as much, the writing was freaking hilarious.
It was so good. Oh my gosh.
The other Claudia book we reviewed, we talked about how the writing style sounded a lot like how a 13-year-old girl would write. Well, this one sounds like a 13-year-old girl who's just like so done. You can't really blame her.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, after going through grade 8 6 or 7 times and then being sent back to 7th grade. It's not even just Claudia who says things that are funny, like all the characters.
Yeah. Oh. A great line from this book. Josh was talking to Claudia and he said, "I'd kiss the ground you walked on if it wouldn't ruin my orthodontia." I didn't even realize he had braces.
Oh, the part with the note was so funny. This is after Claudia has found out that she has the chance to go back to grade 8. Mark was late for school, which is not that unusual. As he slid into his seat, he smiled and whispered, "What's going on?" Mrs. Pilly was glowering at us, so I wrote him a note and handed it to him when she wasn't looking. He read it carefully and wrote something back. "Stay, dear Claudia, or my life is over," he scribbled on a sheet stained with tears. As if. Actually, this is what his note said. "Cool. You get to graduate a year early and leave this dump." And leave is spelled without an E, which I think is so funny.
Not live.
The pacing of the dialogue in this there was a lot of like back and forth between people that was just really good. It's interesting because the ghostwriter for this book was actually a man.
Yeah.
But you never know it from reading this.
Yeah, sounds like a 13-year-old girl.
Good on you, Peter Larangis.
Thank you for giving us this gem. He delivered some great quality lines.
Oh yeah, the scenes with the kids in their school spirit activity.
Oh, so funny.
He has definitely worked around groups of kids at like a summer camp or something because it was very accurate. It actually, like, reading this actually gave me kind of like very low-key anxiety just from like reading it. It's like, oh my god, it just sounds like total chaos.
Yeah, and the pacing of the writing too really conveys the chaos that's happening in the book.
Yeah, it's just like something's happening over here and then bang, 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 you know?
Yeah, and it's just like amazing to read it. The babysitting chapters in this book felt very cohesive with the overall plot, because in the other book it was kind of like a separate thing that wasn't really related that much to the main story, but in this case it's like very well interwoven into the general plot. So Claudia always does these great descriptions of her outfits, but what I really loved was that in one chapter she wears these orange striped harem pants. Goals.
Also, these are some stellar 90s outfits on the boys on this cover.
Yeah, Claudia also looks great.
This is a little embarrassing. I'm pretty sure I've worn a very similar outfit to Claudia on this cover, except it was well after the 90s.
Yeah. I think that's all we have to talk about the BABY-SITTE'RS Club for today. We will definitely be talking about more in the future. I don't know how we're gonna get these books, but we're gonna get them. Subscribe if you want to see more of us or just me doing other random book reviews. It'll be fun.
And if you have some old BABY-SITTE'RS Club books that you want to get off your hands,
slide into my DMs. Yes. I guess we will talk to you guys.
All right.
Next time.
Bye.
Bye.